and welcome to TrendSpider. In this video, we're going to give you a high-level overview of the entire platform, so you know what to expect when you log in the first time, and so you have a sense for the capabilities of this product. Now, TrendSpider is a very robust product. There are over 5 million lines of code that comprise this platform. So obviously, like I mentioned, we're not going to be able to touch on everything. But we're going to start with the basics and give you a sense for how it all works. The very first thing I want to point out at the very top left of the screen is the symbol input box. It may seem simple, but this box is actually a very powerful search tool. If you don't know the name of a company, you can just type that company's name. This is the Microsoft chart, and I found it by just typing the word Microsoft. If I want to find an esoteric asset or something that I don't know the symbol for, I just type the name of the asset, like E-mini S&P, to find the current E-mini futures contract for the S&P 500. You can find any symbol this way, and it's a very handy thing. And you can get to the search box by just typing anywhere. You don't have to be in the box. So if you just want to find, a symbol, you just start typing wherever you are, and it'll take you right to the symbol search box and start to find the symbols for you. Directly below the symbol search box are all your drawing controls. This is where all the things that you can draw on a chart live. And this is a very powerful set of tools, and there's a lot of nuance to each of them. For example, our polyline tool allows you to draw a continuous line. So if you want to draw zigzags or an Elliott wave or just, Bart Simpson hair, you can do that very easily. But what a lot of people miss is all the optionality built into these tools. For example, this polyline drawing I just made can be filled in or not. It can also be smoothed out or not. And if you happen to be an Elliott wave type of person, or you want to label your the movement of price A, B, C, D, as some people do, you can simply type those labels in this box here, and TrendSpider will automatically place them on the chart so that you can easily see them and not have to add them by hand. TrendSpider is full of little things designed to save you a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there, to make your life easy, because let's be honest, trading isn't easy, right? And every second you save is a second that you gain. So that's Polyline. There's also some measurement tools here. The very last one allows you to measure the volume profile. So you can select a price movement and see how the volume was distributed along that move, where the buyers and where the sellers were located on the way up or on the way down. It's a very handy thing and allows you to identify the point of control, the VWAP, and various other levels from a particular move. So there are a lot of drawing tools here, and I won't have time to cover them all. Obviously, you can draw a trend line. You can measure things. If you want to know how big a move was, you can definitely use the measurement tool to find that out. There's a lot of tools there that you will find and play with and fall in love with. And I wish I had more time to spend on them, but I'm going to move on to some other parts of the system now. To the right of the symbol search box along the top menu are all the automation features built into TrendSpider. There's a lot of them, and I don't have time to go into every single one of them in full detail, but I will at least take a moment to show you each of them so you can see what they do. We'll start with pattern recognition. If you want to, and I should probably switch to a candle chart here, but let's say that I want to find any time there has been a hammer on this chart. All I have to do is turn patterns on and select the hammer pattern. And you'll see that TrendSpider highlights any hammers that have formed on this chart with these blue boxes and these labels. There are hundreds of candlestick patterns built in here. They are organized into various sets. So if you trade a specific style, like the strat, right? Or if you follow a specific set of definitions like Thomas Bulkowski's The Pattern Site, you can easily find those here. And for many of these patterns, there are links that will take you to the documentation next to them. So you can just select a few more, turn it on, and the system will start highlighting those on your chart for you as well. This is great for beginners. If you're trying to learn what a hammer is or how to spot a hammer, this capability lets you do that very easily, so you can learn and become naturally able to do that with your eyes, as a lot of professional traders can. And if you're a pro, it just saves you time, right? I like to look for hammers, and this saves me from having to squint at and be like, does that fit the definition of hammer? I don't know. This just checks and lets you know. Now, patterns is something I'm going to come back to in a moment. There's a few other really cool automation tools that I want to go over first. One of them is called autofibs. And autofibs allows the system to measure a move on the chart automatically and plot a Fibonacci retracement. And this, like everything in the system, is point in time. So I'm going to refresh that analysis. And then once a fib is on your chart, you can, of course, customize it and tweak it and change the levels and whatever you want. Auto fibs are really cool. And its big brother, Auto Trends, is even cooler. This feature allows you to tell the system to analyze a chart for you for trend lines. And there are multiple styles of analysis that you can choose from. That was a custom set that I was showing you there. There are a wide range of analysis styles that you can use. And you'll notice as I flip through charts in the S&P 500 here, the system is automatically analyzing each of them. If I want to change the style of analysis, I can switch that up. The system will take a new look at it. And if I look at something like this, where the last time the system analyzed this chart was on February 9th, I can tell the system to take a new look at it by clicking the refresh button up here. And when I do that, it'll take a fresh look at this chart and try to identify new possible trend lines on it that might be relevant to my trading. Here it's kind of interesting because it's identified a breakdown of a rising pattern at a resistance level. And I just want to point out, I didn't have to draw a single one of these lines, right? The system is doing this completely for me. Now, I don't have a ton of time to spend on anything here, as I keep saying, but I'm going to take a moment to show you how this works because it's very cool. We start by identifying every possible trend line that could exist on a chart, up to 2,000 lines per analysis. It looks like this, like a crazy web of lines. We then filter these down, first by proximity and then by relevance to current price action, to give you the most mathematically consistent analysis that we can. And this is done in a split second by an algorithm that you can fully customize. Now, I've only been playing with the pre-made sets here, right? So we have some pre-made ones that the system comes with. There's some options to those. So you can have a draw from the wick to the wick like most people do, but some traders prefer the body. You can choose that as well. And you can control whether or not the system pays attention to breaks or gaps in the price action when drawing trend lines. But if you want to get into it, you can fully customize it to work any way you want. And we provide training and documentation that explains how this works. But the way that it works is by literally analyzing every line the system finds. When it finds 2,000 lines, that means for each of those lines, it has calculated how many times price has bounced off it, peaked against it, broken through it, how long the line is, its slope, its deviation from the price. And these formulas are then used to score the lines, and that allows you to fully customize this entire trend line detection process. And I like to make that point very clear because this is not like TrendSpider's way of analyzing a chart, right? We don't pretend to have the best way. Everybody has a different style, and we know that. So we've built the system to match you, to match your style and the way that you would analyze a chart. So if you're interested in that, definitely play with it. If you need some help learning how to customize it, drop us a line. We're here to help. Now, I've shown you patterns, auto fibs, and auto trends. I'm going to show you something that affects all three of these, and that's called MTFA, which stands for multi-time frame analysis. And MTFA allows you to take trend lines and indicators from other time frames and impose them onto a lower time frame chart. For example, I'm going to go intraday and pull up the 65-minute chart for Lockheed Martin here. Oops, wrong button. And then I'm going to select a secondary time frame to be the daily time frame. What you can see here on this chart are the daily candlestick patterns, right? Just the daily ones highlighted in these boxes. So this is a daily 3-candle pattern. This is a daily hammer. But you're looking at the intraday candles. It's like X-ray vision for patterns, along with the 65-minute trend lines, which are solid. I'm going to remove this one because I don't like it, right? And the daily trend lines, which are these dashed lines. In addition to that, you can also have the daily Fibonacci's on this chart as well, right? So you can have both daily and weekly, daily and intraday levels, or weekly and daily, or monthly and daily, or 5-minute and 30-minute, any combination of 2 time frames you want on one chart. And this will save you from having to flip time frames as often, because it will bring the information that you actually care about from the larger time frames to the smaller time frames. And we know through research that long-term trends affect short-term price action with a great deal of reliability, which is why this feature exists. So I just want to point that out. It works on patterns. It works on trend lines. It works on automated fibs. It works on things you draw yourself. And it works on indicators, right? So here I have Keltner channels. I have both my daily and my 65-minute Keltners on my chart at the same time. On my TTM squeeze down here, we call it a BBKC squeeze in TrendSpider. I have both the 65-minute and the daily squeeze there. And the same thing on the balance of power indicator that I have down here as well. And this works on any indicators, right? So if I want to go in here and say, okay, you know what, I don't care about these indicators. Let me add a simple moving average. Let me add Bollinger Bands, right? And let me add an RSI. You'll see that these same multi-time frame capabilities apply to all of these, right? Here you have the 65-minute and daily 20-period moving averages. That's actually not going to be visible because the Bollinger Bands use the same number, so I'll change that. So here you can see the 50-period solid daily or dash daily moving average and the solid 65-minute 50-period moving average. The same thing with the Bollinger Bands. This is just the daily Bollinger Bands, but the price action is 65 minutes, right? And you can see down here at the RSI, I also have 2 lines, right? That is my daily and my 65-minute RSIs together on one chart. There's no tool out there that does this like this, and it makes it very easy. As I flip through time frames, I can see combinations of data. And this becomes even more useful if you really want to use a lot of time frames, because you can switch TrendSpider to show you 4 charts at once, and each one of these can have a completely different combination of time frames, right? So you can have daily or 65 minutes and daily there, 2 hours and weekly here. Down here you could have 5 minutes and 15 minutes. Anything that you really dream up. Here you can have an hour and monthly. Any combination that you really would want is completely possible, and that makes it very easy to use data from multiple time frames together, from both indicators, fib levels, trend lines, patterns, etc. So I'm going to switch that off, right? And I'm going to show you something really cool, because usually at this point in this presentation, people are like, okay, this is really cool. How do I make this work for me, right? So I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. Here we have a chart with a simple moving average, right? Bollinger Bands on the 65-minute time frame. And maybe our strategy might be to go long when it breaks above the middle Bollinger Band for a little bounce to the 50-period moving average. And I want to know when that happens. So all I have to do is right-click on it like I just did and click on Create an Alert at this line. This allows me to tell TrendSpider, hey, go watch this chart for me and let me know when something that I care about happens, right? So I'm going to select Breakthrough. I can have a buffer zone here if I want, but I'm going to make it, very small. We'll make it like a 20-cent buffer zone. And I'm going to have this go off intraday when a 5-minute candle does this, right? And I have this watch this chart for 30 days. So what this is going to do now is tell our computer in the cloud, which has a high-speed connection to the market data feeds, to watch this line on this chart for you and send you a text message, an email, beep at you, and alert you when price on the 5-minute chart breaks above the middle line on the 65-minute Bollinger Bands. That's a mouthful, but basically this lets you outsource staring at charts to a computer, and it works on everything. I'm going to drop a horizontal line there and do the same thing. Right-click on it, and this time I'm going to tell it to let me know if price ever touches that line again. Right? I'm going to give the buffer zone there, and I'm going to get notified when a 10-minute candle touches this line. Right? This also works on auto trends. This works on auto fibs. This works on anything you can see on a chart. And it's very powerful, and it allows you to stop staring at so many charts all day. Because honestly, could you pay attention to 50 charts? I sure can't. So that is alerts, and it's one of the most popular and the most powerful things in TrendSpider. Every day, our users create thousands of alerts. And there's no platform in the world that makes it that simple. So now that I've covered alerts and patterns, I'm going to show you some of the other things in the platform. One of them is called heat maps, right? And heat maps are an algorithmic way that the system identifies possible support and resistance levels on your chart, and also possible path of least resistance for price action itself. And this looks like a red blob on your chart. And when you zoom out, you'll notice it only covers the portion from the truth line forward, right? And this is showing you the path that would be easiest for price to slice through by showing red as the areas it will be hard, right? So on a light colored chart, the white area is where price is going to have the easiest time to trend through, and the red area is where it'll be harder. If you have a different colored theme, those colors may switch a bit, but I think you understand that point. Now, there's a lot of nuance to everything that I just showed you here. In indicators where we didn't spend a lot of time, there's in particular some really cool proprietary ones. I'm going to show you one of them, and that's called volume by price, which I'm sure you've heard before. And I showed you one type of indicator or one kind of drawing like that earlier. But this is called anchored volume by price. And let's say you want to know where all the buyers and sellers were from the low here, right? Well, you just drag this vertical line to where you want to measure from. Right, we want to measure from the high, and we can see there is no volume up here in this high area, but there's a lot of volume here, and price is trading below the most popular price called the point of control. There's also another indicator that's not proprietary. It's invented by our good friend Brian Shannon from Alpha Trends, but it's not available in a lot of platforms, called the anchored VWAP, and you get to that by right-clicking on any chart candle and clicking create Alpha Trends anchored VWAP here. And you can see how powerful this is, right? I anchored it at the low. We bounced off it here. We bounced off it here. We're struggling around it right now. You can do this on any chart. When you position this in the highs or lows, right, it gives you some very, very interesting levels to watch. And that is a cumulative indicator that you can anchor by right-clicking on a chart candle, or tell the system to automatically anchor for you by saying anchor this a VWAP to the highest high among a range of 200 candles, which the system will then do for you automatically as well. Anchored VWAPs are really powerful. I really recommend you play with them. We also have something that called a raindrop chart that uses VWAP as well. And these are very cool, and these are completely unique to TrendSpider. You will not be able to find these in any other platform in the world. We invented them. And wow, that's a wonderful example of them. And you can see on this random LMT chart here why they're so powerful. Now, notice how each raindrop is different in appearance than a candle, right? They're different in information too. We'll take the most recent one for our example, the one I put arrows on. Like a candle, they have a high and a low, and those will be the same. That is where the similarities stop, right? For a daily raindrop, it is measures the volume profile and the volume distribution for that day. So for example, this raindrop is split in half. The left half is the first half of the day. A day is 6.5 hours of trading, so the left side is 3.25 hours of data. The right side is the second half, the second 3.25 hours. The line separates them down the middle. The dashes, right, represent the volume weighted average price for that period, or that half of the period. Right, and the shape represents the volume distribution, the volume profile essentially for that same portion of the period. Now, this tells you a lot of information because you can see how the buyers and sellers moved. It also gives them their color. When the right side is higher than the left side, the VWAPs, they're green. The opposite, they're red. Where it gets cool is when they turn blue. And they turn blue when the VWAP from the first and second half are the same. Now, let's let that sink in for a second. This is a Lockheed Martin chart. They trade millions of shares a day. For everybody to pay the same price all day long, it takes a lot of indecision, right, on an average basis. So what we end up having is these blue raindrops forming at periods of serious indecision. And you will notice that they form before huge amounts of volatility. And this happens a lot. Almost every blue doji that we see on this chart occurred before there was a lot of volatility that came in. And you can see that here. We had a bunch of them in this consolidation area here. We had one almost top ticket. On the way down, when it first bounced, it bounced off a blue doji, right? When it bottomed out, it bottom ticked with a blue doji. And on the rally up, before this first pullback, we had a blue doji. at the peak here, we had a blue doji near the bottom, and then we just recently had one again. These are not directional, and I really don't want to imply that they're like a reversal marker because they're not. Treat them like you would a doji candle where the open and close are the same, but understand that they are a doji with the power of volume, right? And that makes them very rare and very powerful and very meaningful. And these are not the only raindrop pattern that the system has. I actually don't know why I did the circles there, because I could have just used pattern recognition, right, by selecting blue dojis here and have the system highlight them for me on my chart, right, which it is doing right now. You can see that here, right? But there's other patterns here too, and one of my favorites that I'll show you is called the balloon. Oops, let me turn the blue doji off. Just so we just see the balloons, because balloons are pretty rare, right? So the most recent balloon here, right, you can see really nicely, right? You have a high to high downtrend, and then you have a raindrop where all the volume is at the top. It peaks below or starts below this line. It's a raindrop, so you don't know when it starts because there's no open, but the low is below this line, and the stem looks like a string hanging from a balloon. This is a very bullish continuation thing when you find these, when there is a breakout, right? The breakout can be a horizontal level. It can be a previous high, right? It can be a trend line. It doesn't have to be a long trend line, as I just highlighted here, right? But whenever you see that shape, right? Here's another example, right? You had a little bit of a downtrend up here, right? And then you have this shape of a raindrop. You know there's going to be at least some continuation coming, because that's telling you the buyers were all at the top, right? The buyers were pushing the price up. There was such pressure at the bottom to buy it up that it got bid up really fast, and all the volume still accumulated at the very top there. So balloons are something that I definitely look for. I definitely suggest you play with them as well. Okay. So that was a lot. I'm going to move on to some stuff that you probably haven't played with before. At least not in a charting platform. I'm going to show you some of our new sidebar widgets for analyst estimates, seasonality, and Benzinga News. And then I'm going to end by showing you our strategy tester and market scanner. And the market scanner is a gem. It's absolutely worth waiting for the end for, because it is probably the most powerful search engine for charts that has ever been built. And I realize that sounds, like a lot, right? But I promise you it will live up to what I just described it as. So let's talk about some widgets, right? And let's start with analyst estimates. How many people pay attention to analysts, right? I sure don't, for the most part. I'm a technical trader, and I've never really considered analysts to be reliable, because they look at things on crazy long time horizons, right? And they take a very fundamental perspective when looking at them. So how do you know, right, if this guy even knows what he's talking about? You'd have to do research into the analyst and then do research into their research, and it just seems like, it's not worth it, right? And a lot of people think that way. Like, very few people, who are serious traders will buy an upgrade or sell a downgrade, right? Simply because it's just like this extra information that you have, but you don't really use. So we've decided to try to find a way to make this useful for technically minded traders. And what we came up with, what our CTO developed here, in my opinion, is absolutely brilliant, because it shows you insights that you otherwise would have a really hard time getting, and they are actually actionable. So what I pulled up here is a Tesla chart, right? And let's try to understand what the analysts are thinking about Tesla. So on this sidebar that I have open here, you can see the profile of all the coverage, all the analysts that cover Tesla. There's a lot of them, right? Because Tesla is a very popular stock. The graph shows you how they change their opinions over time, right? So each dark green or dark red or dark gray is a new opinion, and the lighter colors are a continuation of that. You can see there's a lot of indecision in the middle. There's some analysts that are always bullish. There's some that are always bearish, right? So how do we know who's good, who's not, right? Well, first we look at the list, right? This list here shows you every analyst opinion. And you'll notice as I move my mouse over these, it actually highlights them on the chart, right? These little boxes are corresponding to each of the rows here and each of the lines up here. So as I move my mouse here, it will highlight them everywhere so I can see who that is. So now we just eyeball it, right? I'm just going to look at this chart and say, okay, Tesla bottomed out around in the middle of March of this year, right? Who said sell at the bottom? Well, If I move my mouse and hover over this guy, I can see Ite McKelly from Citigroup said sell, right? I can see UBS switch to hold. I can see Argus Research downgraded Tesla at this point. A day later, a few days later, I can see that Piper Sandler, Alexander Potter from Piper Sandler, upgraded Tesla to a buy. Let's see how reliable Citi and Piper are. So I'm going to go to this list on the left here. I'm going to scroll through it. I'm going to click on Citi. I'm going to find Piper, right? I'm going to click on Piper. It's going to highlight anytime they come up in this list so I can easily spot them. And it'll move their 2 rows at the top so I can see Citi is always bearish. Piper is always bullish, right? And now I'm going to go to my chart legend here in the top left of my chart. I'm going to click the 3 dots and I'm going to switch it to only favorites. And now I can see how good this is, right? So let's see. Citi said sell back here in December. What happened? Price rallied 180%. Piper said buy, and price rallied. I'm going to move it just a little bit over so we don't have overlap. 80%. Piper reiterated their buy. It was part of that rally. Down at the bottom, Citi said sell. Piper said buy. If you waited for Piper's buy, right, in this combo double whammy thing, you could have been in a ride for a 400% rally here by doing the opposite of what Citi did and what Piper did when those 2 advices came the same. Back here in July, the same thing happened. Citi said sell and Piper said buy. And again, you had a massive 70% rally there, right? And right now, Piper is saying buy and Citi recently said sell. Right, so it is just interesting. I'm not saying this is like a strategy, do the opposite of Citi and what Piper does here. But to illustrate the point, right, analysts are sometimes always right and sometimes always wrong and sometimes a mixture of it. And if you have a way to look at that like you would a volume bar or an RSI reading and just be like, okay, this guy happens to be always wrong. And if I think it's time to buy and I have other reasons to want to go long this asset and he's telling me sell, that's a positive combination that you can then incorporate into whatever your trading system is. So, and like I mentioned, there's no other platform that brings analyst data into your chart in this way and makes it so easy, right? The other thing you can do here is you can also filter on the chart. So if you want to see just upgrades, right, you can filter these. So only analysts who change their mind, right, up, right, or just downgrades, right, or just changes in general, right? Oops, misclick. Or just changes in general, right? So people who had an opinion and changed it, right? Whatever your analyst strategy or whatever way you want to look at it, this gives you a quick way to see that on a chart. The next little widget I want to show you is for seasonality. Seasonality is an interesting concept that oddly not many trading platforms have built in, right? But it's really powerful. For example, Tesla goes up in June 80% of the time, right? That's a good thing to know, especially if it happens to be the end of May. You can see the distribution, right? In the last 10 years, Tesla's only gone down in June twice, once by 4.9% and once by 3.3%, right? All the other Junes in the last 10 years, all 8 of them, it's gone up, with the best one being a 30% banger, right? You can then slice and dice this data however you want. You can look at it by week of year, right? You can see Tesla is in a bad time right now. Typically, Tesla goes down this week, next week, and the week after. But after that, it tends to pop 70% of the time. This is actually really fascinating on some other assets, right? Like if you look at Disney, for the last 10 years, you see that, or last 11 years, right? You'll see that it goes up like 100% of the time or 92% of the time during the 28th week of the year, right? Actually, this is 12 years. If I go back just 11, it'll be 100%, right? So, and in the last 11 years, right, the only time Disney has broken even or not had a great month was when it broke even at 0.06% during that week, right? And that week this year was a few months ago. I checked. It went up about 4% that week. So that's pretty amazing. This is a bad week for Disney, but you have some really good weeks coming up too. In addition to price change behavior, this also gives you volatility, right? So by turning on the min-max and the percent change, you can see the volatility of this asset on a time-based horizon. And in addition to that, you can filter this in a number of other ways, right? You can do it by day of week, right? So if you're more of a short-term trader, a short-term swing trader, an options trader, you can say, okay, since the beginning of July, what was the best day of the week to own Disney, and that's Wednesday, by the way. And if you want to look at it by hour of day, you can do that as well. So you can say, hey, in the month of August and September, what's the best hour of the day to own Disney? Or just during September, right? Looks like between 11:30 and 12:30 seems like the best time to own Disney, right? So, this tool gives you an incredible way to look at the performance of price over time. And by the way, I forgot to mention, you can filter this, right? So you can say, I want to go back 19 years on Disney, but I want to exclude 2008, March of 2020. I want to exclude 2012, 2011, April of 2001, right? Like whatever you want to do there, you can just have the system, exclude it from the data, and it'll just update it on the chart for you automatically so you can get a clean picture and remove erroneous outliers and things like that. So that's seasonality. We also offer, as part of all of our plans, a free access to Benzinga's professional news alerts, their breaking news alerts and all of that. So that's also available on your side panel here. And these are supportive tools that you can have open and using along with your charts. So, there's a lot of stuff that we're adding to this right menu, but you can actually customize this fully. So you can click here and you can say, okay, you know what, I want 2 seasonality widgets. I want my notes, I want to add watch lists. I want to add analysts, right? So this can be your sidebar. You can set this up however you want. Next thing I want to show you is going to be our strategy tester. This is a built-in backtesting tool, right? And by the way, I'm saving the best for last. The market scanner is what I'm going to end on, and that's coming up next. But the strategy tester is really, really, really powerful, right? Let's say we want to know what would happen if we bought this stock or any stock when the simple moving average crosses up through another simple moving average, right? So we'll say the simple moving average 10 period crosses the 20 period simple moving average to the upside from below to above. And let's say that we only want to do this if the RSI is greater than 50, right? And then let's say we want to do the opposite. We want to sell when this moving average split reverses, right? So, or maybe even a different moving average split it happens, right? But we'll keep it simple here, right? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the 10 crossing down through the 20 as an exit condition. And let's say we also want to take profit if we ever make 5%, right? So what happens, right? How does this play out? Is this a profitable strategy? Well, if I push this button here, TrendSpider will automatically calculate that for me. And it can do this going back a long time, right? I just switched it to go back 7,000 candles, right? And this will show me exactly how this strategy would have played out, right? It doesn't look like it played out too bad, right? There's a little volatility in the beginning, right? I can see how my trades play out, so how many last how long, right? The most profitable trades obviously are the ones that lasted the longest, but they're also the fewest, right? A lot of trades seem to get closed out, within about 20 candles, right? And, it is profitable. It beats the random control line. The volatility, and drawdowns stop after about 28 days, right? You end up being positive. This gives you a very quick way to see how that price action would have played out. You can also see this on the chart, right? So I can click see on chart here, and it'll actually plot those entries and exits on the chart for me, so I can visually see where I would have bought, where I would have sold, right? And if I had multiple conditions here, which condition would have triggered it and why. I can download a list of all the trades, right? There's 140 trades over 2 years in this backtest. I can download it to Excel and analyze it. There are a plethora of statistics visible for me here, and I can even compare it, and this is important, to buy and hold, right? Now, this chart will show me my cumulative performance in blue, the assets buy and hold performance in black, the drawdowns in red, and if I want, what portion of the asset's price movement I was in a trade during, right? So you can see, I'm going to zoom in a bit, but you can see the green parts are when I was in a profitable trade. The red parts are when I lost money in a trade. Gray is when I was just sitting on the sidelines, right? So you can see that this strategy does catch a lot of really good moves. I mean, it caught this giant move up here. I'll zoom in a little bit on that. So maybe with some refinement, the strategy can be a consistently profitable strategy. I can see that it loses 63% of the time, right? But the biggest loss and the average loss are lower than the average gain and the biggest gain, right? So by using the strategy tester, you can develop, perfect, experiment, test, build your own strategies that you can then, if you find one that works, turn into an actual alert that will let you know. And that's what I'm going to show you next, and that's called our multi-factor alerts. And the best way to get to that is straight from the backtester by clicking this alert me next time it happens button. Right, so when I do that, it creates this alert dialog. It brings my conditions in. All I have to do is tell it how long I want it to watch for and give it a name and press create alert. Now what I've done here is I've developed a strategy, tested it, and told the system to go watch this asset and let me know when that condition becomes true so I can then decide if I want to trade it or not. So that's the strategy tester. It's super cool. You can spend hours in it. I mean, I can't tell you how many nights I've looked at the clock and it's like 5 a.m. and I've been back testing all night trying to, perfect a strategy I came across or learn how to use an indicator. There are so many uses for it. I definitely suggest that if you're newer to trader, take some time because it is designed to be simple, right? You do not have to be a programmer to use it at all, right? If you understand how to describe a chart, talk about RSIs or moving averages or things like that, you can define it in TrendSpider all the easy. Next thing I'm going to show you, and this is the last thing, and I know it's been a long demo here, but this is the coolest thing in the world. I use this every day, and this is one of our most popular features, and it's also really new. We just released this a few months ago, and this is our market scanner. And I like to tell people this is Google for charts. Let's say we want to find any stock where on the daily time frame there is a hammer forming, but also on the 1 hour time frame, let's go with a simple moving average, is greater than another simple moving average, and that simple moving average is from a different time frame. Call it the 2 hour chart. Right? So here we're going to look for a 1 hour, 20 period simple moving average. It is above a 2 hour, call it 50 period moving average, with a daily hammer forming on the current candle that's open today, right now. It's 2 p.m. on a Thursday, so the market is open here. And we want to search through the Russell 2000 for this 3 time frame criteria. Oh, and let's say since it's a Russell, we also want the daily price close to be greater than the constant value of $10, right? Because we don't want anything that trades to less than $10. And all we have to do is press the search button here, and the system will go out there and search the market for any stocks that fit this conditional criteria that I have defined here. So what it's doing right now is it's actually searching through the Russell 2000. It's downloading every chart in the Russell 2000, and it's analyzing those charts in order to identify which ones match the conditions I've defined here, right? And this is worth noting that there are dozens of samples that we provided, right? So you don't have to learn how to do this right away. You can learn from the examples that we've provided you. And a good scan like this scan shouldn't give you a ton of results. Right? The whole idea is to let the system dig through the pile, the haystack, that proverbial haystack for that proverbial needle, right? That perfect chart that you're looking for, so you don't have to do it by hand, right? And this is extremely powerful, and you can just click on these and look at them and see them on your chart. And if you see something that you like maybe I like this one, I don't know, you can just plop a quick alert on it, just like that, and tell the system to watch this for you and let you know when price touches it. I'm going to show you a couple other scans. I'll actually show you my favorite scan. This is a real scan that I use on the regular, and it's called Triple Inside Consolidation, and it's a standard scan that comes with your account, right? So you can use this too. I always use it on the Russell 2000, and I always switch the time frames to the weekly time frame when I use it. So what this looks for while it's scanning is 3 weeks in a row, including this current open week, where the high and the low of the trading activity is completely within the high and the low of the previous week. If you think about what that looks like intraday or even on a daily chart, right, it's going to look like 15 candles, maybe 20 candles of tight consolidation, right, of coiling. It's rare. It doesn't happen that often, right? But if we can find one of these, they often make a really nice trading opportunity, right? Here's one that I just found, right, Rosetta Stone. So on Rosetta Stone, I'm not sure what's going on with this stock. I'm going to guess this is being acquired because, you almost never see super tight action like that unless there's an IPO. But, let's pretend it's not, or we found something else. You can plop an alert right there, create the alert, and go. You can also very quickly in the scanner switch time frames. So like, let's say you want to find the same pattern, but you want to find it intraday on the 1 hour chart, right? You can have the system do that for you as well. We'll probably get some more interesting examples here, and you can see exactly what that looks like inside, right? And let's say if you wanted to trade this, you might want to create an alert on a trend line like that. And you can very quickly, as you can see here, flip through a lot of charts and create a lot of alerts that will watch the market for you down the line so that when opportunities come to you, right, you can seize them. And that's really how it all comes together, right? Our vision is to let the market come to you instead of chasing the market, right? Give you a way to watch a large number of symbols for patterns that you care about. Your patterns, not our patterns, not somebody else's patterns, not alerts someone else created, your alerts, so that when they go off, you're in the know at the right time. And we've tried to build tools that give you automation to speed up the grunt work, right? To make it easier for you to do things with consistency by leaning on algorithms instead of, your subjective eyeballs, right? And tools to help you discover and test strategies and stocks and, assets to trade on. I didn't touch on this, but I should mention it before I hop off here. This platform is not just for stock traders, right? We support crypto, we support Forex, and we're adding all kinds of markets all the time. We also provide every customer with a free one-on-one training. So if you need help in learning how to use the platform or getting specific in how to use it for your particular use case, you can just click on your name up here and go down to schedule training into TrendSpider University and set up a training session. We also have weekly training webinars that we hold 4 days a week on intermediate and advanced uses, and hundreds of videos and hundreds of articles and all the resources that we can. And we are here for you. We provide real customer service. This contact us link at the bottom, this is real. This goes to real people, and we answer real chats. Right. We also have a phone number that's on our website. You can email us. We're here to help our customers. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something about TrendSpider. I hope it entices you to give it a shot. This will be the last technical analysis, last trading tool you'll ever need. It does everything that you need to do, and it does it in a modern, high-tech, robust SaaS environment that you can take anywhere and will save you time and make you more efficient. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a long presentation. Please consider signing up for a free trial and have a lovely, lovely day. Bye-bye.